Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Bird, Nick, and today, well, I'm getting emails right off the bat, so hopefully that didn't interrupt my music too terribly much. But anyway, today, I swear, some days it's just one of those things that it's just, it never fails. Anyway, today, it's kind of a hodgepodge episode. I thought I had an idea for today. It kind of fizzled, so I've kind of pulled together a couple different things, so we'll see how this works. But first, we're going to fire up a cigar, and the cigar I'm smoking today is the, let me get my notes here, it is the Perdomo Lot 23 Sungrown Epicure. It is a 6x50 cigar made from Nicaraguan tobaccos from a special field cultivated in 2000 by Nick Perdomo himself. This blend combines tobaccos from the 5th and 6th priming of a caramel brown Connecticut seed wrapper, delivering a creamy texture and nuanced flavors. The fillers, sourced from dark Nicaraguan tobaccos and bound by a robust Nicaraguan binder, impart rich notes of espresso and nuts. And the cigar, by the way, the Perdomo Lot 23 Sungrown, it is $10.29 for a single on 2guyscigars.com, but if you buy it by the box for $203.99, it is a box of 24 that brings that single price down to $8.50 each. So there you go. But anyway, it's time to cut the cigar. The official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. Two Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows Two Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does its very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and excellent customer service. So head on over to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. And remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Two Guys, they announced the big name change over there. The shops, the 3 locations, they were called Two Guys Smoke Shops, and they changed them to Two Guys Cigars. So now it's all uniform, it's all one brand, and they won't have people coming in looking for jewel pods anymore. So that's a nice thing. I didn't think Dave would be silly enough to completely abandon the brand and the name after 40 years. You don't want to mix it all up. I mean, look at what Cracker Barrel kept their name. They just changed the logo and the look of the inside, and look at the firestorm that erupted from that. So, you can't imagine what would have happened if Dave would have, suddenly changed it to like Garofalo Cigars or Dave Cigars or, whatever. I mean, you just don't want to mess with a good thing. Don't want to mess with a good thing. So anyway, we're going to cut the cigar here. And as I grab the cutter and do that, we're going to give the cigar a little cut and take off the cap there and give it the old tap, 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 tap on the hand to knock off any excess schmuckus. And got a nice draw on it. And from there, I think it's time we go ahead and hear the greatest commercial you've ever heard while I light this guy up.
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino Corojo.
Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused, while the others say it's a word that's just abused.
I guess that's so. They can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars use authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard.
Yeah.
All right. So, I wonder if they had a big kazoo-a-thon up at the expo. You know, Dave's been pushing the Aladino kazoos, and we had them at Pulpit Fest, and we played that ad, and everybody kazooed along. And I'm curious if, you know, he would have had to have a whole lot more kazoos, though. There were a lot of people there, and he only bought a gross of the kazoos, and, you know, so he would have needed a lot more kazoos. But would have been good. 400 or 500 people kazooing at the same time. People all around the area would have been hearing kazoo music. It would have been nice. So, anyway, well, I only have a couple of them, but given the fact that, like I said, my episode idea, full transparency, I had an idea, and it sounded good in theory. And then when I sat down and really started putting pen to paper, trying to figure out what I was going to say in this episode, it kind of quickly fizzled out. It just wasn't as good of an idea once I dove into it as I thought. And so I've been sitting here, not joking, for like 2.5 hours, racking my brain, trying to figure out what am I going to do. And the hour is getting late, and I don't want to be up all night. So it's one of those things where, fine, I'm just going to hodgepodge. I'm going to Frankenstein this thing together, and, you know, we'll do a few different things. It'll be fine. It'll be good. So, we're going to start off with this.
Shall we play a game?
You talking to me? I have a question for you.
You gotta ask me nicely.
Ask me about my winner.
You got a question? You ask the 8-ball.
Come on, sucker. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on, indeed. I have a few Ask the Pulpit calls, so we're going to go ahead and go to the phone line and listen to the couple of calls that I have from you guys. And you can get your calls in by calling area code 863-874-0000. That's area code 863-874-0000. You know, if this episode doesn't prove anything, it's the importance of the Ask the Pulpit hotline. So, guys, when you have a random thought, when you're listening to this, you have a random thought, you have a question, you have a comment, you have a thought that comes into your mind as you're listening to me ramble into your ear hole, you know, give me a call. Call the hotline and leave me a message, because you never know when your call is going to be so vitally important to my mental health. So anyway, hitting the phone line with our first call here.
Hey, Nick, Sean Boudry here.
What up, Sean?
Just wanted to do a follow-up from our conversation we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, I guess, already. But we were talking about the silent majority of listeners that, you know, don't write in, don't call in, but we may, you know, post on the parishioners page and everything. What do you think about doing a once-a-month whereby meeting, what's up app, so that we can all get together, smoke the cigar, and just shoot the shit for a couple hours? But anyways, I know it's work for you. Could easily get a sponsor to support this and maybe rotate through, you know, different brands. Say, okay, this month everyone's going to be smoking West Tampa or Aladino. So anyways, just an idea I was thinking about, and do what you want. Talk to you later. Thanks.
You know, buddy, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate the thought, and I appreciate the input. And I'll be honest, the idea of doing some sort of a, like, off the air, just casual kind of smoke has definitely crossed my mind. You're not, not to like diminish your call or anything. You're not the first person to pitch it at me. And I like the idea. What it boils down to, is I just got to do it. That's the thing. I mean, my Zoom, membership, I can have, I think, up to 500 people on a Zoom call, at one time. I realize Zoom is kind of one of those, 5-year-old, everybody did it during COVID kind of things. And, I'm sure there's probably better technology. You mentioned 2 apps, and I've never even heard of the damn things. But everybody's into Discord, and I do not get it. I for a hot minute used it back in oh god, that would have been 2018, late 2018, 2019, and I was involved in a couple of groups on there, and it was just a chat thing. And I'll be honest, it was a time suck, and I kind of quit and never went back. I guess people record in there. They do shows in there. They do all kinds of, I have no idea, but anyway, so yeah, I know there's other technologies available that I can look into. It's a weird thing. I'm finding myself in the last couple of years really feeling old as it pertains to technology. When it comes to like social media, which, you know, I have my own thoughts and opinions on social media, but when it comes to that, it seems like Instagram is where I peaked. I have Snapchat does nothing for me, and TikTok, you know, the making of a video in there to make a good one, I feel is really difficult. Like, I give a lot of credit to some of these TikTokers, not necessarily for the content that they're putting out, but for the effort that they're putting forth to make the content that they're putting out. You know, it's not an easy thing. And I don't know, I've been feeling my age when it comes to technology lately. You know, I've gotten really into Reddit lately, and there was a gentleman on Reddit. At least I assume it's a gentleman. I don't know. I'm could be misgendering, but somebody posted in there basically saying that they've got a young podcast and they're thinking about adding video, and they wanted to get the opinions of everybody. And I jumped on it and I said, I wouldn't do it. Stick to audio only if you can. I wouldn't mess with it. And, you know, I kind of gave my reasoning. I had somebody reply and say, well, explain this. And I went into a very long diatribe about why I'm not a big fan of adding video to the show. Sorry to all of you on YouTube, Rumble, and that watch this on Spotify video. I don't know if you sitting there watching me in my garage, really adds a whole lot to the show. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong. So if I am, you know, give me a call and explain to me why you like the video, maybe more than the audio version. But by adding the video, it's kind of tied my hands a little bit more. And also it's made setting up and recording at other locations more difficult. It's added an extra level of complication that I didn't really want, or that I don't want, but it's kind of one of those, dude, you did it and you're into it. So now, you know, you're stuck. I mean, you're stuck. So anyway, back to the original point though. So doing kind of like a off air, just kind of a general, hey, anybody can join and let's all smoke the same cigar and we just kind of hang out and chat. I love the idea. What it really boils down to is I need to stop for a moment, look at my calendar, and ideally it'd be nice if we could do one. You know, I don't know if we need to do it monthly, but if we could do it maybe every other month, I think that would be kind of nice. I mean, I only say that because monthly, you know, we're starting to get into the busy time of the year. I mean, if you can believe it, you know, shit, it's already mid-September. You know, we're coming into October, and then from there it's the holidays. So, you know, we're getting into the very busy time of the year where maybe people are too busy to get together, and who wants to get on a Zoom call and sit and smoke with me? I mean, obviously Sean does, but you know, I think that maybe twice every other month, is not a huge commitment. And it's something that, you know, if you miss it, you got another one coming in 2 months. And if you don't, you know, then you're there and you got to experience it. The sponsor idea I like. Sorry, I had to get my cigar going again. It's going out on me. Admittedly, guys, full disclosure on that too. So I bought a one of these handy dandy little Humi packs from Perdomo, the Sungrown one, and I decided to do the Lot 23 tonight. And my only thing, I generally am a big Perdomo fan. My only thing that I have ever found that I will just levy a little constructive criticism to the fine folks at Perdomo, and not just Perdomo, it's pretty much anybody that uses these Humi pack things. They over humidify the cigars. They come out, they're typically a little too humidified, little soft. And generally when I have one that's in the pack like that, if I know I'm going to smoke it, I like to take it out of the pack, let it sit on the counter for, a couple hours, and hopefully lose some of that extra humidity. Realistically, I mean, I probably should do it for a solid day just to let it acclimate to the ambient humidity of the air. But so my Lot 23 is a little on the humidified side for me, but it just means I gotta watch it, and I gotta keep it going. But Sean, I like the idea. I would like to do it. Don't be surprised if one day you wake up and I've made the announcement that it's going to happen on a specific date, put out the Zoom link, and everybody can just join in that evening, and, we can smoke. And it will not be a recorded thing. It will be one of those just, we're hanging out. It's not going to be something, super formal, and, we'll just have fun. Everybody can just kind of meet up and talk and do that. I will admit that is something I do kind of miss about COVID. There are surprisingly some things I do miss about COVID, or at least the COVID time. Let's put it that way. I know some people are saying like, what the hell? But seriously, there are some things. And one of the things that kind of happened during that was, dude, it seemed like every night I was getting a text or a call from somebody saying, hey, you want to hop on Zoom and have a cigar? And it seemed like every night I had somebody to sit in the garage or on the deck and have a cigar and talk to. And it was nice. That obviously went away when people went back to work. I think some people have kept it up. It's not a completely foreign idea, for everybody, but it's not something that has kept up in my life. And part of it is I went back to the cigar lounge. It's like I'm sitting in the lounge with people again. Now, since then, I will say probably in the last year, having moved to this house, my cigar lounge time is way, way down. We're getting to the part of the year soon where it's going to start getting cold out. And yeah, I've got heaters out here, but they're not like spectacular. They'll do. So it's nice to get to the lounge that's near my house every once in a while. It's not my favorite lounge for reasons that I won't get into on the show, but it's serviceable. But if I want to jump to Missouri, I have a few other options. But realistically, I've kind of like gotten to the point that I'm more comfortable just kind of sitting in my garage and just kind of hanging out, watching my TV and doing stuff here. So I don't get to that. So the idea of doing a Zoom kind of, I hate the word herf, but I'm just going to go ahead and use it. A Zoom herf. That sounds appealing for no other reason than I can still be sitting in my garage, but I get that camaraderie and that social time that is missing sitting in my garage. So, it's not a bad idea, Sean. And like I said, don't be surprised if one day you wake up and I just have done it and announced it, because realistically, I think it's a good idea. I just need to figure out the logistics of it. So yeah, but it kind of ties into another idea that I've been rattling around another idea for, holy cow. Well, all of this year, a little bit of last year. It's just the logistics of it. And also, sometimes the hardest part is making the ask. And so I just need to formulate up my plan and then make the formal ask and, see if it's feasible or not. That's a big tease. Super, super vague, I know, but I do not want to remotely say what I'm thinking about for risk that I kind of like screw it up before it even gets off the ground. So anyway, Sean, thank you for the call. Always nice to hear from you. And you're going to be coming up on the show, actually. I have a segment coming up for upcoming shows, but I'll go ahead and mention it now since he called. Sean is going to be appearing on Friday's show, Friday, September 19th. Sean and Seth Jones, the guy who lost us the meatball competition, they're going to come onto the show together, and they are going to talk all about their experience at the New England Cigar Expo that took place this past weekend up in New Hampshire there. Needless to say, I wasn't able to go. I went last year. I loved it. I would have loved to have gone this year. I saw pictures, and it looked like just a whole lot of fun. Lots of people, and the night fights looked pretty cool. I saw Mr. Jonathan was wearing some of his armor. I desperately want to know if he caught like a battle axe upside the head or something like that. I think that would be not like to kill him, but like, give him a good ring into the bell. I think that would have been funny. But all things being equal, it looks like it was a really, really fun time. And I had some serious FOMO going on this weekend watching it. But, you can't be everywhere. And I don't know. I'll have to plan ahead for next year. And hopefully with the shifting of the dates for Pulpit Fest to the first weekend of October, I haven't put it like right on the heels. That's assuming Dave's even going to do it. Last I heard, he was kind of waffling as to whether or not he was even going to do another expo after this year. It was was the 40th anniversary, kind of a nice even number, kind of call it a day with this one. So we'll see. If he does it again next year, then we'll see if I can make it. If not, then, I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, moving on to the next call.
Good afternoon, Nick. This is Jacob. I called a few weeks back and forgot to give my name, so I say a few weeks, probably a few months now back. Either way, Jacob? It's Jacob. Coming to you from the hellish traffic of the DMV. I'm sitting here listening to you talk to your father about the Golden Gate Bridge. And so a couple points of reference here in regard to that period. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to say period, but I'm talking like I'm texting. So first off, they don't really fully repaint the bridge every year. They just spot paint it. They go back and start spot painting it every time it needs it. However, the question you guys asked is, how many times would it take for it to get repainted before it actually collapsed on itself? And a short answer is that it would not ever collapse on itself. Oh. So the bridge itself weighs, I believe it's 420,000 tons. If you include all the anchorage and everything, you're almost at 900,000 tons. Typical maintenance uses roughly, they want to say up to 10,000 gallons of paint per year. So a gallon of paint is between 8 and 12 pounds. So you're looking in order about 20 to 50 tons at most per year. And that's a very, very, very high estimate, considering apparently when I looked it up in 2021, they used 2,590 gallons of paint, period. Again, sorry about that. So essentially what you're looking at is over 50 tons a year would add roughly 5,000 tons, which is 1% of the 420,000 pound main structure. So it's never going to be enough to collapse the bridge even in 100 years. Okay. So either way, I wanted to say thank you because it was a really good thought. It was a really good question to put out there. Makes you think. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your dad. Appreciate the podcast. Love you all. Have a good one. And hopefully traffic will break up here soon.
All right. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for the call and the insight there. That's good to note. I'll be honest. he kind of threw that question at me, and I just kind of, did my quick Googling and whatnot. And I don't know what the weight of all the vehicles passing, like how much weight goes over the Golden Gate Bridge on an average day. I mean, there's a lot of traffic that passes over that. So you have the weight of all those vehicles. So that obviously plays a role. And yeah, I mean, the paint, like you said, it's minimal, but then in addition, the reason they're going and doing all that spot painting is kind of like how I mentioned how, you probably have wear and tear from, ocean breeze carrying salt, various things of that nature that's going to eat away at the paint. So for all the paint you're putting back onto it, how much are you putting on versus how much, just eroded off? So it could just be a wash in terms of the weight there. But, this is good. This is thinking. I like this. This is good. This is intelligent conversation. And this is, you're throwing out, I mean, there was some math involved there. So, I mean, I'll give you credit for that. That was a good, solid call. Looks like Jacob called again. So let's hear his other call here. Hopefully he got moving.
Good afternoon, Nick. It's Jake again. And an ass. So I hope you screen your calls before you play them. I gave you that answer about the Golden Gate Bridge before I let you even finish talking about it. I, again, was sitting in traffic and had some time, so I got really interested, looked it up. And it turns out you also looked it up on the episode. Never in a million years did I think you'd follow that through. And I called in way too early, so now I feel like an ass because I gave damn near the exact same answers you guys came up with. It's not a mystery at all, and I would have saved myself some Googling while driving, while sitting in traffic, had I just spent the time and finished listening to the episode first. So I apologize for the duplicate information, and hopefully it looks like the traffic just broke up. So have a great one. Enjoy your weekend, and stay smoky.
So Jake, needless to say, I do not screen my calls. And but I appreciate that you did it, because here's the thing. This it touches on two things. First of all, you heard something on the show that got you thinking and you called in. And that's big. That's exactly what I was just saying earlier. When you have a thought, pick up the phone and call the hotline. Area code 863-874-0000. Call the hotline. Talk to me. Let me know what's on your mind. Yes, I just happened to start Googling, as we were talking about it. And, I came up with close to, but you did a little bit more thought on it. And that's good. But never, ever apologize for calling the hotline. I mean, look, not you in particular. I don't know. Maybe you have some extraordinarily wretched question you want to ask me, but even if somebody calls in with an extremely wretched, just horrific question, the most that's going to happen is you're going to get the Adam protocol, which is named after a guy named Adam who called in and asked me a question that was so incredibly just fucked up that I refused to answer it. And so, as with all things in science, you name it after the inventor, the discoverer. So in this case, it was the Adam protocol. And so I always reserve the right to Adam protocol a question. I haven't had to do that in a long, long time. A long time, actually. I wonder why that is. But anyway, my point is, though, never, ever hesitate to pick up the phone and call. You never know. We had 2 people call about wild chickens, for God's sakes. I mean, I had no idea I had such intelligent listeners that not only knew about wild chickens, but 2 of them that knew about wild chickens. So, for all I know, Jake, you're a structural engineer. Maybe you're not. You did some Googling, so I'm going to assume that maybe you, are a guy like me and you're not a structural engineer, but maybe there is a structural engineer who listens to the show and is sitting back and is listening to that episode and just going, these schmucks have no idea. There's no way possible with this way the suspension works and blah, 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 and all this and everything. There might be a purely scientific reason that there's no way that bridge can collapse. I don't know. But the point is, everybody should just pick up the phone and call. And I appreciate that. So, no, no need to apologize. It was greatly appreciated, and it gave me something to talk about now when I desperately needed it. So, thank you. Well, that would be my 3 calls that I have banked up for this episode. Guys, you can get your calls in by calling the hotline at area code 863-874-0000. So as I mentioned, I'm going to touch on some upcoming episodes. So obviously on Friday, I'm going to have Seth and Sean talking about the New England Cigar Expo. I figured it'd be nice to get some attendee comment on it. We obviously, if you listen to the Cigar Authority, then, you heard Dave leading up to the show talking about what it takes to put on the New England Cigar Expo. And then after they finished on Saturday, they went to the studio and they recorded their episode that came out Saturday, kind of recapping the event and everything else. So that gives you their perspective on it. But this gives you the perspective of a couple of attendees, and attendees that I know have been there in years past and are invested. They're interested. And so this gives the consumer perspective of the expo. And then on Tuesday, coming up, I'm going to have CEO and executive director of the Premium Cigar Association, Josh Habersky, on the show. By the way, all this is contingent based upon the fact that that schedules don't change and suddenly somebody has to cancel. But Josh Habersky is going to come on the show, and we are going to discuss. There's a couple of pieces of legislation that unfortunately have passed, and so now it's a matter of trying to claw them back, get changes made to them, or figuring out how to live with them, because quite frankly, they're already passed. So and that's always the hardest thing. In my experience with government, it's so much easier to make changes before a vote is taken. Once a vote is taken and something gets signed, holy shit, it's so hard to go back and change things. But anyway, California and Texas both have a couple of pieces of legislation that have unfortunately been put into place, and there's going to be some ramifications for cigar smokers in both of those states. Retailers, consumers, and manufacturers, they're all going to have to deal with the ramifications of these two laws. And so I'm bringing on Josh to kind of discuss the details of those, and then also just kind of find out what, if anything, is being done, can be done, whatever, because I kind of feel like the genie's out of the bottle in this case, and that's not a good place for people to be as it relates to California and Texas. Two very different states, by the way, extraordinarily different states. And the pieces of legislation that they put forth are both different in terms of their impact, but ultimately both going to be headaches for manufacturers, and in turn trickle down to retailers, in turn trickle down to consumers. So, it's kind of weird that you have two very, very politically different states, both coming at cigars in a different fashion, yet ultimately still causing trouble. So whatever. And then coming up in October, this is one I'm going to put this out there now so that maybe you guys have a little bit of time to give me some suggestions. So quite a ways back, I did a series of shows called The Battle of the Budgets, and it ended up being almost like a tournament style bracket deal where my co-host and I, we blind smoked a number of budget bundle cigars. And, we, in a couple of episodes, we did 4 cigars at one time. and determined our winner from those. And then we did some semifinal bracket and eventually came down to the championship where the Tatiscan put out by Aladino Cigars and the Oscar Plan B from Leaf by Oscar went up against each other. And the Tatiscan ended up ruling the day. It was just the superior. It was close. It was very close. But that day, those cigars, the Tatiscan, won the day, and we declared it the winner of the Battle of the Budgets, tournament. And since then, I haven't done another one. And I feel like the time is right to revisit this concept because, prices are going up. This Perdomo pack that I bought today, I was in Total Wine. I just stopped in. I was doing some errands, and I stopped into Total Wine strictly to go to the humidor, grab a few things, and then leave. And I walk in. I'm looking at the shelves, and son of a bitch, if the Romeo y Julieta Reserva Real Nicaragua Midnight Twist. Okay, so it's the blue band Romeo y Julieta, but it's the barber pole one. They had those. They had the Toros. Now, think in your mind, what would you say is a fair price for that cigar? What would you say that cigar is probably selling for? I'll give you a split second to just consider that. Personally, in my mind, when I think that cigar, $12. I would say $12 would probably be right in the line with the market and maybe what it is. But I was floored to see that Total Wine was selling that cigar for $16.99 for a Toro. That was a $17 cigar. And don't get me wrong, I've smoked the Midnight Twist. The Reserva Real Nicaragua is one of my favorite go-to cigars. I've bought many boxes of them, not the Midnight Twist, but I've bought many boxes of the just regular one. And it's a good cigar, but I'll be damned if I'm spending $17 on one of those. And, so then I'm looking around and I see the blue from My Father Cigars, which I guess is a new one from them. And I'm like, okay, it's a new one. I'll consider this. Let's find the Toro. What do you think the Toro of that's running? $15.99. And I'm like, this is a $16 cigar. And guess what? I didn't do that either. But you know what I did do? I bought a couple of my Perdomo Habano Sungrown Churchills for $10.99 a piece. And I bought that Sungrown Fresh Pack for, I think it was $37 for the 4 cigars. So less than $10 a piece on those. And so, that's the thing. The prices on cigars, look, we can blame tariffs, we can blame supply chain, we can blame, as it relates. I know AJ Fernandez works with Romeo y Julieta to make that Reserva Real. I don't know if they actually make it there or if AJ blended it and maybe provides tobacco for it or what. I don't know what the relationship there is. And I know AJ had his fire at his facility, so maybe that has caused that cigar to jump up to $17 because, maybe it's one of those things where he's only got so much space. But I thought they got that thing cleaned up and operational pretty quickly after that fire. Anyway, the bottom line is prices have gone up and people want to be able to smoke, but they don't want to break the bank doing it. And so I'm doing another Battle of the Budgets. I'm probably not doing as many cigars this time as last time. I think there were 16 cigars in the running last time. And realistically, for a couple of different reasons, that's not going to happen this time. But I am doing, I think, 8. I have a couple in mind The threshold that you have to keep in mind is I want this to be a cigar that is $8 or less, and I want it to be either a Toro or a Robusto. I don't want it to be like, oh, get this cigar, but you got to get it in the Corona size, or get this cigar and you got to get it in the like little baby, I'll just say Hemingway size, that kind of thing. I don't want, or the short story. I don't want something that, oh, you can get this, but you can only get it under $8 if you buy this dinky little cigar. I don't want that. I want to be able to talk about full size, legit smokes that you can get for under $8. And like I said, I have a couple of them in mind. I have a panel that's going to be coming together. We're going to spend a weekend banging out 3 different episodes where we smoke these things. We're going to smoke them blind. Nobody knows what they're going to be. We'll announce what the cigars are, but you're not going to know what they are as we're smoking them. And then at the end of the episode, we'll announce, okay, cigar A was this, cigar B was that, and, go from there. But we're going to be smoking them blind, and we're going to be reviewing them blind. And the winner of it is going to be the best one standing. So that's kind of how this is going to go. But that'll be coming up the very beginning of October. It'll start in the beginning, second week, I think, of October. And then, like I said, it'll continue. It'll be the first half of October. We'll get that done. But anyway, so we're going to revisit the Battle of the Budget. So with that being said, I only have a couple, so maybe go to, if you're a member of the Parishioners group on Facebook, shoot me a message or put a message up on there saying these are some recommendations I would have for you to consider for that. Shoot me an email, Nick, N-I-C-K, @cigarpulpit.com. Shoot me an email with, hey, you should try these, and consider that. Part of it is the other caveat, by the way, aside from size, vitola, and price point, is I want it to be a cigar that is generally available for any shop to be able to bring in if they don't already carry it. I don't want it to be, your random lounge's house cigar that only they get. I want it to be something that anybody in business can bring in and promote to their customers if they're looking for a affordable daily smoke that they can promote to their people. So that's coming up on the show, and that's what I have in the pipeline. I'm trying to build up the calendar a little bit. I'm trying to get better about building up the calendar, 'cause that way I can avoid doing random Frankenstein shows like this. So anyway, let's do this now. It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. I have a very bipolar Villiger report this episode. So the first show that I finished watching The West Wing, and I blew through this show once a long time ago, and it was in a way different time in my life, and so now I'm watching it again, and I finished it yesterday, and I'll say that just taking the politics of it out, because I know some people are like, oh my God, that show, Democrat president. I get it. We're taking the politics of it out. I'm just looking at it objectively as, is it a well-acted, well-written, well-performed show? Are you interested in the characters, or is it compelling? And I would say that it's a good show. The later seasons definitely changed dramatically. Aaron Sorkin created it. He left the show, I think, at the end of maybe season 4. It went 7 seasons, and I can tell you that by season, starting in season 6 and all through 6 and 7, it almost felt like it was trying to pivot to a whole new show, which I guess makes sense because, you know, the pivot there was that they were exploring the primary and then general election of, you know, Martin Sheen's character's replacement as president, because Martin Sheen, you know, obviously served 2 terms, and in this country we have term limits, and you only get 2 bites at the apple. And so, but they focused very heavily on the campaign side. You saw a lot of turnover in the cast, new characters coming in, old characters leaving, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't know. It just by the end of it, I was ready to be done with it. It just was one of those shows where I feel like the first 4.5 seasons, I'll say 4.5 seasons, are really solid. Season 5 kind of just drug on a little bit. And then seasons 6 and 7, it was just like, we're barely in the White House. We're mostly on the road with, you know, the 2 candidates, you know, running for office, and, you know, their staff. And so it just, I think it was one of those shows where I really liked the beginning part, and it kind of petered off near the end. It's hard to have a show that runs that long and maintains itself. Even The Sopranos, which is probably like my favorite show, I would say seasons 4 or 5 and the first half of 6 are not as good as 1, 2, 3 in the back half of 6. But I will say that I will still stack up seasons 4 or 5 in the front half of 6 against pretty much any show. It's just not quite the same quality as the rest of the show. But anyway, so I did finish The West Wing. But then that leads me to my complete 180. So what am I watching now? I've been binging through the 2nd season of the new revival of Beavis and Butthead on Paramount Plus. The 3rd season apparently has started on Comedy Central. I'm seeing clips of it on my Instagram, and for whatever reason, they're not streaming it on Paramount, which kind of pisses me off because it looks funny. The guys, they found they got a can of mace from somebody, and because they're illiterate and can't read, they thought it said they mispronounced it in such a way that it sounded French, and they basically determined it was cologne. So they started spraying themselves with mace in order to smell good for the ladies. And it's the clips I've seen of it just look hilarious. So anyway, I've been watching Beavis and Butthead, and you know, it's a guilty pleasure, but God, I love Beavis and Butthead. It's so dumb. It's so incredibly dumb, but I do enjoy it. Like, and what's been nice with this revival they did was, they found a way to keep the music video segments going. 'Cause, you know, you have some artists that still put out music videos on, YouTube and various other platforms, but then, they also have videos. They had a video where a guy took like every flavor of Mountain Dew, poured it in a big cup, and chugged the big glass of every single flavor of Mountain Dew at once. And so they're commenting on that. They had one where a young lady was showing off her apartment in New York City, and they were making fun of her, you know, and the way all of her sentences ended like a question, you know, and it was funny. One of the ones that really cracked me up was they were they were watching a Nicki Minaj video, and in the beginning she's like on strings like a marionette puppet, and they were like, you know, basically saying, oh, is this when she's like Pinocchio? And Beavis says, like, somebody said, one of the two of them said something like, only every time she lies her butt grows bigger. And then Beavis is like, I wish every time I lied, my schlong would grow bigger. And but then that sent him down the rabbit hole of, I'd tell the ladies, hey, I have a gigantic schlong, which isn't true, but then it would grow big. He's like, and then it's like, but then it is true. And it totally broke his brain. And it was just some of the funniest shit. And I'm just sitting here in the garage smoking and just laughing at these two morons. And it's, I guess what I'm saying is you don't have to be dealing with, truly, mind expanding entertainment all the time. It's okay to throw your brain some candy and let it just get something stupid now and then. And, Beavis and Butthead's definitely pretty stupid. But the other thing that I've been enjoying too is with these new episodes, they have clipped the cartoons where the boys are still in school and young, but then they've also been doing the old Beavis and Butthead to where they're old, they're adults, they're living in a Fleabag apartment together. They've got nothing going on in their life. They're poor and, whatever. And, there was one where the guys, their car got impounded, so they had to go to the courthouse to get their driver's licenses reinstated because they had like $500 worth of tickets and their driver's licenses were suspended until they paid that. So I went down to the courthouse. Well, when they got there, the line for the license window was really long. So they're looking for one that's shorter, and they find the marriage license window, which had nobody there. They went in, and the lady thought that they were getting married to each other. Well, she said something like, so you guys want to get married? And they misunderstood that and thought that she wanted to have a threesome, but she was a bit of a old-fashioned gal and had to be married before that could happen. So they agreed to go ahead and get married so that, they could have a threesome with this woman who works at the courthouse. And obvious bizarre shit happens from there, but it's just funny. So before long, Beavis and Butthead are actually married in Texas there. So I'm amused by it. I that's what I've been watching. So anyway, like I said, it was very bipolar. We went from the Bartlett administration to Beavis and Butthead. All right, moving on now.
It's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars, can't clip our wings.
Alrighty, now today's topic, or today's subject, I should say, he's a very familiar one for everybody. This is gonna be kind of a low hanging fruit, fly high with Blackbird, but Fred Rogers, better known as Mr. Rogers, wasn't just a beloved children's TV host. He was also a quiet force for good in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and beyond. Rogers used Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood not only to teach children kindness and empathy, but also to help his community deal with real struggles. When Pittsburgh's steel industry collapsed in the 1980s, thousands of families faced unemployment and hardship. Rogers stepped up, creating special episodes to help children understand why their parents were struggling and to reassure them that they were still loved and safe. Beyond television, he worked directly in his community. He visited schools, hospitals, and even living rooms of families in need without cameras. One famous story tells of a young boy with cerebral palsy who was ashamed of himself. Rogers visited him, sang with him, and even asked the boy to pray for him. That simple act gave the child a sense of worth and dignity. When he testified before Congress in 1969 to save the funding for public broadcasting, Rogers' heartfelt words convinced senators to allocate $20 million to PBS, money that ensured communities across America, especially poor ones, had access to educational programming. Fred Rogers never sought fame for his community work, but through small, consistent acts of love and advocacy, he uplifted millions. His legacy shows how one person can change the character of an entire community by choosing kindness every day. So be like Fred Rogers and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings. And I'll say, and I'm just going to put this out there, and you guys, politics be damned. I'm going to talk about this for a second. I know that some people may disagree that we, as a country, allocate money for public broadcasting, specifically PBS. I know some people probably think that that's not a good use of our tax dollars, that, whatever. And I could not fundamentally disagree with you more. I think that PBS has done an amazing service for the children specifically of this country, but I would also argue, everybody on up. If you actually take time to look at your local PBS affiliate, look at what their programming is. Yeah, there's a lot of British, shows and things like that they're bringing over. And yeah, there's Masterpiece Theater and this and that and whatever. Maybe you're bored by that. But I can tell you that my 9-year-old child loves every single freaking PBS cartoon that they can put in front of him. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Caillou. And I'm not the biggest fan, sorry, Fred Rogers, of Daniel Tiger. But I'll tolerate Daniel Tiger long before I tolerate Caillou. But honestly, I would hate to think that kids like my son wouldn't have Sesame Street and all these other programs that he loves and learns from, because we don't want to allocate tax dollars to it. I would hate to think that my kid would have to grow up without those shows and would rather just have Paw Patrol and, and the the drivel that comes from Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and various things like that. And don't get me wrong, I just got done saying it's okay to give your brain a little sugar now and then, but by God, you got to give it some vegetables and some protein. And, there's good quality programming on PBS. And I think it's a shame that we have politicized and made a point to go after the funding of PBS. And anyway, PBS is in a really bad place right now. And I would say that if you haven't paid attention to it, look into it, because it's bad and it's going to impact a lot of kids. I remember watching Reading Rainbow. Growing up, Reading Rainbow was such an excellent show. I loved that show. And I know I've talked about it on the show before, how when I got to meet LeVar Burton, I talked to him for as long as I humanly possibly could about Reading Rainbow and the impact that it had, not just on me, but then other children. And it's important. And I think it's a true tragedy that PBS is in the place that it is right now. And look, they've always had their funding things. They've always had their telethons where they raise money, and let's be real, end of every episode brought to you by viewers like you and things of that nature. And I get it. I get that, some of us maybe wouldn't. And again, maybe you don't want to support, I don't know. I can't. Even the political shows they had on there, the McLaughlin Group and everything, you had both sides represented on that show, so like, I don't get this attack on PBS, and I desperately want that to end. So, for those of you who are remotely interested in what I've been rambling about, check it out, Google it, look and read about the attack on PBS. And if you're so inclined, reach out to your lawmaker and just tell them to knock this shit off. We've got so many problems in this country that the last thing in the world we need to be doing is waging war on fucking Sesame Street. Okay, please. Anyway, all right, let's do this now.
Guess what, motherfucker?
It's time for 3 cigars I smoked and enjoyed this week, and goddamn, I'm trying to smoke and enjoy this one. And it just, I have to keep hitting it with flame because I'm talking too much and I'm not able to keep it going. Anyway, my first one that I want to mention is another Perdomo. It's one that I smoked the other night when I believe it was Friday night when the New England Cigar Expo kicked off. I smoked one of the Perdomo Two Guys Cigars 40th anniversary Bellicoso cigars. I was gifted some by Ed Sullivan at Pulpit Fest, and I did share the wealth, Ed. I did provide a friend of mine with one of those. So I did share the wealth, and I appreciate you sharing the wealth with me so that I could try that. I'll tell you what, when I first lit it up, I thought, okay, this smokes pretty much like the 20th anniversary Sungrown. I just figured maybe it was just the 20th in a different size. And maybe it is. Maybe the short Bellicoso size that they did resulted in some extra oomph and extra power. But holy shit, this cigar packs a freaking punch. There is a lot of spice and strength in that little Bellicoso. Dave, I don't know if you blended this for the masses. I don't know if you're smoking it. Feels like it would be a really strong cigar for Dave, but I dug the hell out of it and I really enjoyed it. So, yes, the 40th anniversary, the Two Guys Cigars 40th anniversary cigar from Perdomo, is a winner in my book. I would like it in a bigger size. Maybe that might kill the strength. I don't know, but, holy shit, man, that one hit and, I enjoyed it. So I don't know if Two Guys still has any on their website. I should have looked that up before I started doing this, but, if they do, guys, get some. If they don't, you missed out. But if they do, pounce on it while you can because it was a damn fine cigar. The second one that I wanted to mention is one that I dug out from my humidor. I was doing a little rearranging in the humidor. I'm still working on getting that humidor fully stocked up and everything. And I stumbled across a box that, to be honest, has been sitting and chilling in my humidor since I bought it in November of 2020. And it was a box of Brickhouse Ciento por Ciento cigars from J.C. Newman. And this was their TAA 2020 release. And I still had about half the box, maybe a little less than half the box, sitting and chilling there. And to be honest, it kind of got buried in the humidor and I'd forgotten about them. And so I came across it and I was like, holy shit. So I pulled one of those, got myself a cup of coffee, and I had a very nice morning cigar with that thing. It's a Brickhouse that knows somebody. It's a powerful Brickhouse cigar. Super good. A lot of flavor, a lot of strength, a lot of pepper to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. And now the problem is I know they're there and I'm going to be tempted to go and get more. So, and I obviously can't, get more than what I've got. So, one of those things, if you are somewhere and I don't know if you happen to just get lucky to find some Ciento por Cientos from, 5 years ago, and you stumble across them, man, pick one up. It's worth it. Then the last one is the one that I smoked on the show last Tuesday, when I did my lottery episode. And that was the Davidoff Nicaragua Toro. I really enjoy that cigar. It's smooth. It's flavorful. It's fantastic construction. It was really, really good. I'm glad I smoked it. It's not one that I smoke on the regular, just mostly due to the price point, but every once in a while for something special, it's good. And, I really did enjoy that. All right, guys. Well, it's that time. Social wise, I'm available on Instagram at the Cigar Pulpit. I'm on Facebook where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. I want you to get in on the action there. If you're not a member, go ahead and find it and request to join. I'll approve you. If you're a member, then keep on doing what you're doing. Make make suggestions for the Battle of the Budgets, upcoming Battle of the Budgets. Like I said, $8 price point or below. Got to be a Toro or Robusto in terms of Vitola, and it's got to be something that is mass market available for any shop to carry. It can be, a boutique brand that maybe is small, that not a lot of stores carry, but it's got to be something that if retailers across the country, were by some miracle to happen to listen to that episode and just be like, oh my God, that sounds good, I want to order some, they have the ability to contact that manufacturer and get some in their shop. Anyway, so get in on the fun there with the Parishioners Group. I'm on Twitter/X, and if you want to watch this, I am on Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify video. So if you use Spotify, you can watch this or listen to it. Otherwise, that's a show. I got over an hour out of this, and I didn't really anticipate that I was going to be able to pull that off. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for taking time out. My Lot 23, it's been a very good, solid cigar. Definitely one of the more affordably priced cigars in Perdomo's lineup. And it's one that I feel like sometimes gets overlooked because of the bourbon barrel aged and the 10th and the 20th and the 30th and the legacy and all that. I feel like sometimes the Lot 23 doesn't get its love. But it's a solid cigar. It's really good draw, good construction. Even though, mine is probably needing more fire. If you look at that burn line on the video here, it's really pretty straight, and it's been smoking remarkably well, despite the fact that it's maybe a little over humidified from that humidipack, and I've been talking too much to keep it going. So anyway, guys, thank you so much, and this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Everybody, stay safe, stay smoky. I got the thing going there at the while the music was playing, and it did kind of come back to life a little bit. I did hit it with a little bit more fire just to kind of give it that assist that I think it needed. But I'll be damned if this cigar didn't come back to life with a few draws on it. So maybe I've been a little maybe I thought it went out and it actually hadn't. But anyway, Perdomo Lot 23. I dig it. Talk to you guys.